Hey everyone, Cody from Mac Telecom Networks. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Switch Pro 48 PoE. I'll also compare it to just the 48 PoE. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button. Make sure to hit the bell icon. If you'd like to hire me for network consulting, visit www.mactelecomnetworks.com. You'd find us on Instagram at Mac Telecom Networks. We have a Discord and an Amazon storefront, and I'll put the link in the description below. So first, let's take a look at the Switch. Here we have the Switch Pro 48 PoE, and it is fairly long in depth. It's 17.42 inches. On the front, we could see our 1.3 inch touchscreen display, and then we have our 48 ports, and these vary in different PoE, and we'll go through that when we go through our specs. At the end, we have 4 SFP plus 10 gigabit ports, and then a reset button. On the back, we have our RPS DC input, and then we have our standard input. This switch comes with our racking ears and then our power supply, as well as a racking mount kit. If we're not rack mounting this, they give us some feet so we can put it on a table, as well as some cage nuts and some screws. And these screws here would be for our rack mounts. Now that we've seen what comes in the box, let's go over some of the specs. Now let's look at some of the specs of this switch. So this model number is USW Pro 48 PoE. We have 8 gigabit RJ45 802.3 BT PoE++ ports. There's not a whole lot of things that use PoE++ right now, but the Unifi Access Hub does, as well as their PTZ camera. And the remaining 40 gigabit ports are PoE+. For our uplinks, we have 4 SFP plus 10 gigabit connections. And this switch has layer 2 and layer 3 features. We have a maximum PoE power wattage of 600 watts. It has near silent cooling, and we could use the Unifi Smart Power RPS DC input. On the front, we have the 1.3 inch touchscreen, and this is managed by our Unifi network controller. The switch goes for $1,099 MSRP USD. So if we take a look at the Switch 48 PoE, just to see the differences between these, this switch only has 32 PoE+ ports. The other ports don't have any power over Ethernet at all, and the 4 uplinks are just SFP, so they're 1 gigabit connections. So if you need PoE++, you would have to go with the 48 port Switch Pro. I'm going to get this plugged into my Switch Lite 16 PoE, and then we'll get it adopted into my controller and look at some of the settings. Okay, now we're on my UDM Pro, and I'm showing this in the new user interface. There's a couple things that you can't see in the new user interface, but you can see it in Classic, and I'll show you that. At the top, we could see the USW Pro 48 ready to be adopted. We'd see all the other devices have a green symbol beside them, and this one has blue. So we'll click on the device, and then we'll press adopt. Now the switch is adopted into our controller, we could see that there's an update available, and there's quite a few updates for my devices. Right now, we'll just focus on the USW Pro 48, and we need to click on the update available. Here it's going to tell us from what version it's going to, so we're at 4.0.64, and it's going to move to 5.64.8, and we'll press confirm, and this will update the firmware for this switch. Okay, now our switch firmware is up to date, and it wouldn't update for me. It just kept going back to the old version through the UI GUI. So I'll show you how to manually upgrade the firmware. Sometimes if the firmware is too far back, it won't update. So what we need to do, we could do an SSH session into our switch. So my switch IP is 192.168.10.104. So we'll open a PuTTY session, type in that IP address, and then press open. Here we're going to log in with our username and password. All right, now we're logged into our switch, and to see some of the basic commands within our switch, we could just type the command help. And this is going to show us some things we could do. We could do info, set default, set inform, upgrade, FW upgrade, and reboot. So the command I did was upgrade, and then I went to the URL path of the newest firmware. So we go to the Ubiquity downloads, and we would find the switch or access point or whatever piece of gear we're working on. And for this switch, it would be the Unifi firmware 5.64.8, and we would click on this little download file. We'll click I accept to the terms, and then this is the direct URL. So we'll copy that. We'll go back to our PuTTY session, right click so that the path goes in, and press enter. So this should update your switch manually. If this doesn't work, you'll have to use a program like WinSCP, and I have another video showing you how to use that. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the settings. We could see all of our ports up top. We could see our uplink is on port 48, and then we could see our 4 10 gigabit SFP plus ports. We could see the different colors, which means different link speed. So blue is 10 gigabit, light blue is 2.5, green is 1, and then amber is 10 or 100 megabits per second. We have the name of the switch, the MAC address, the model, the version, the IP address, the switch experience, and then we have a temperature. We also have a fan level, uptime, memory usage, and load average. Under uplinks, this is going to tell us what we're uplinked to. Right now, I'm just uplinked to my office switch on port 1. And then it's going to show us the speed that we're going at. We're going at 1 gigabit per second. We could see our downlinks if we have any downlinks, and then we could see clients or guests that are connected to the switch. Right now, we have no other computer or access points connected. And then under statistics, we could see our CPU and memory utilization. If we click under device, we could give the switch a device name, and then we could click on screen. We could change that LCD screen brightness, and we could also turn on night mode. We could have rack multi-screen synchronization as well. Under network, this is where we're going to either specify that the switch gets an address from DHCP or we statically assign it. And then we could see some services. So we have our management VLAN, we have jumbo frames, flow control, rapid spanning tree or standard spanning tree, our priority, and then 802.1x control. We could also set up SNMP. Under manage, we could locate the device. If we click that, it will flash. And then we could restart the device, copy configuration, custom upgrade, trigger provision, download device info, debug, and then we could forget the device altogether from our controller. If we look at ports, this is going to give us our port settings. We could see ports 1 to 40 are PoE plus, and then ports 41 to 48 are PoE plus plus. And at the bottom, we could see that port 49 to 52 are SFP plus. If we click on one of the ports, we're going to get more settings. We could give the port a port name to specify which device is connected to that port, and that's really good for troubleshooting. And then we could switch the VLAN that it's sitting in or port profile. Right now, it's just set to all. We could set up a MAC ID filter allow list, and we could do port profile overrides. Under here, we could specify the PoE, so we could either have it off or have it using PoE/PoE plus. Under the operation, by default, it's set to switching, but we could have it mirroring or aggregate. And then we could hard code the speeds if we want. Right now, it's to auto negotiation, and for the most part, that should work. But we could set it to 1 gigabit, 100 megabits half duplex, 10 megabits full duplex, or 10 megabits half duplex. We also have a few other settings. So for port isolation, storm control, LLDP, topology change notifications, enable spanning tree, and egress rate limit. One thing that they don't have in the new UI, which I find is very handy and I use it all the time, is being able to power cycle the port. On the classic version, on the right hand side, if you just click beside the port, it will shut off the PoE of the port and reboot the device. Now looking at the ports in classic mode, I have a Unifi access hub plugged into port 47, and we could see on the right hand side that we could restart this port. So if we click on that, it's going to say, are you sure you want to power cycle port 47? We could press confirm, and then the power is going to be gone. I hope they bring that to the new UI shortly. So that's it for this video. This switch is for testing. I'm going to be deploying about 3 or 4 of these at a job that we're installing about 60 cameras and 6 Unifi access hubs. I will be recording some of it to show you guys the installation progress, so watch out for those videos. If you guys like this video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you're new here, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. All right, thanks.